refinery fire prompts questions about the future of a village's 20,000 residents in southern Taiwan. A shattered legacy. Taiwan's top museum admits to breaking 3 precious artifacts. A new film sheds light on women's experiences during Taiwan's White Terror. A Taipei exhibition looks back on 20 years of what has become Asia's biggest LGBTQ event. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Ethan Liu. Residents of a village near Taiwan's southern port city of Kaohsiung have staged a protest after China Petroleum Oil Refinery caught fire near their homes on Thursday evening. James Chater reports.
Fire engulfing a state-owned oil refinery in Dalinpu, southern Taiwan. The blaze broke out near the port city of Kaohsiung just after 10:30 p.m. on Thursday, after oil and gas caught fire in a desulfurization plant in the facility.
听到迄个巨大声响，大家拢走出来看，还有闻到臭味安尼，所以即马烟雾拢飞到大埔社区遐去啊。
26 fire engines and 45 firefighters were dispatched to the scene. No one was injured in the blaze, which was brought under control just before midnight. Kaohsiung City Mayor Tsai has fined the company, China Petroleum, 5.3 million Taiwan dollars, around 165,000 US dollars. He's also ordered work at the refinery to stop until safety inspections are carried out. But the blaze has prompted fresh questions over a long-delayed Kaohsiung city government plan to relocate the 20,000 residents of Dalinpu. The formerly bustling fishing village is surrounded by Taiwan's industrial giants, including Taipower, China Petroleum, Taiwan Shipbuilding, and China Steel. A 2019 Environmental Agency report found higher levels of toxic chemicals in Dalinpu's water, air, and soil, the latest explosion exacerbating concerns over pollution.
4月以来受到工厂的污染，整体已经亮起红灯。在百姓来讲，敢有公平吗？于心何忍啊？
Now, Dalinpu residents are calling for action on the relocation project.
你搞我大拉波人帮起啊，有鼻头人当作啥话？塑胶哟啦！啊，若真正甲当作塑胶个，你知影塑胶厉害？
Kaohsiung's mayor has said the relocation would restart after upcoming local elections in November. But similar promises have been made before, and for Dalinpu residents, this fire is another reminder of the danger of those empty words. Alex Chen and James Chater for TaiwanPlus.
Syria People, one of Taiwan's indigenous Pingpu, or Plains groups, celebrated at the country's top court on Friday. The Constitutional Court ruled unanimously that Taiwan's government should recognize all Pingpu people in the same way it recognizes indigenous citizens not from the Western Plains. More than 100 Siraya people who live in southern Taiwan sued the government for recognition as an official indigenous group. There are up to 1 million people in Taiwan, but the lack of official recognition means they have been denied the protection afforded by other indigenous groups. Siraya activists that took the case to court said the ruling will help them protect their culture and language in the future.
那我们也很开心，因为这个判决虽然是喜拉雅代表喜拉雅来走这10几年的这样子的这么辛苦的路，但是它能够包含整个平埔族群的正义。对我认为这样子的一个宣告，其实是对整体台湾土地的一个祝福，不是只有对平埔族群而已。 对，因为我们找到了这样的一个正义，我相信说这样的正义为我们这样的一个人权的重视，为我们国家开启将来更理想、更符合正义，然后我相信人民会更幸福快乐。
Taiwan's National Palace Museum has admitted to breaking 3 artifacts over the past 2 years. The broken items were from the Ming and Qing dynasties, making them hundreds of years old. Reports estimate the artifacts are valued at around 6.2 million US dollars. Museum authorities ruled out human error for 2 of the damaged artifacts, while the third broke when it was mishandled by an employee.
站着可以作业的高度，地板上面有铺地毯，破成几片那种破法，不只是自责，很长的时间都睡不着觉。
President Tsai on Thursday said Taiwan is looking to strengthen its partnership with Ukraine. She made the comments as she welcomed lawmakers from Ukraine and Lithuania at the presidential office in Taipei. The meeting comes after Taiwan pledged a further $56 million in funding for war-torn Ukraine. The money is to be spent on rebuilding schools, hospitals, and other infrastructure. Tsai said the three countries were united against authoritarianism.
这场战争呢，让全球的民主的伙伴呢，都意识到说必须团结对抗威权主义的扩张。台湾和乌克兰以及立陶宛都位处于威权主义扩张的第一线，那么因此呢，我们对于乌克兰的处境特别是感同身受。
Civic groups advocating for greater access to public housing have released a report ahead of Taiwan's local elections next month, looking at each candidate's stance. With house prices many times greater than the average income in Taiwan, ensuring access to affordable housing is one of the biggest issues facing politicians. John Van Trist reports.
These social welfare advocates are chanting, "Keep building public housing." In the run-up to local elections, they met with candidates in Taiwan's 6 biggest cities to discuss the issue. And now they're making their findings public. First on the agenda, keeping rent affordable. The network of advocates say that so far, only candidates in the northern cities of Taipei and Taoyuan have pledged to base rent on tenants' income.
我觉得最重要的第一个原因是非常多候选人是担心财务的问题。简单的说， 如果我们社会住宅是以收入来计算租金，就认为他们的租金就会收得更少。
Next, access to public housing. The advocates say that all 14 candidates they spoke with made suitable promises. The 3 candidates for Taipei mayor have even pledged tens of thousands of new units, going beyond even the goals of the Interior Ministry. But these social welfare advocates say numbers aren't everything.
所以营运 持续面，这绝对也是一个非常大的一个重点。
And they say local governments must do more to help place their most vulnerable residents in public housing.
有一些心智障碍者，他因为这个流程很复杂，或者他抽签的通知他可能不是那么的可以理解，所以他可能就不知道要怎么申请，或者他其实已经抽到了，可是他其实不知道。
These social welfare advocates want voters to consider housing issues when they head to the polls next month. And they're reminding politicians that they will be around to remind the winners to make good on their promises after election season ends. Damon Lin and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's economy grew 4.1% in the third quarter of this year, and that's compared to the same period last year. The growth rate beat most analysts' forecasts thanks to stronger than expected domestic consumption. But global inflation and ongoing COVID lockdowns in China continue to put pressure on Taiwan's exports, a key driver of the island's growth. The figures come despite the World Bank warning last month that rising interest rates could lead to a global recession next year. Taiwan's economy minister says the country is looking to bring in overseas talent to ensure the long-term development of its semiconductor industry. New U.S. government rules restrict Americans working in China's hardware sector, and this is leading many foreigners working in the Chinese semiconductor industry to consider relocating. In an exclusive interview with TaiwanPlus, Wang Meihua said Taiwan is working hard to attract this talent.
那你看美国这个措施对人才的限制是一个很大的杀伤力，所以你就可以知道人才的重要性。 所以台湾除了现在针对半导体有所谓的半导体学院之外，那我们也会怎么样再扩大这个半导体的人才？那另外就是吸引外来的人才的部分，怎么样现在的措施怎么样法规上更松绑，让外国的人才、高阶的人才也好，实际在操作的人才也好，更愿意到台湾来工作。 那当然，另外一方面就是，因为有美国这样的限制，所以中国有没有可能 会想从台湾吸收人才。好，所以我们也要注意啊，我们的人才不要不当的被流到中国去。
To listen to the full interview with Wang Meihua, tune into Taiwan Talks on November 8th, only on TaiwanPlus. Meanwhile, Taiwanese computer giant Asus has announced the opening of its first AI-enabled smart factory, and TaiwanPlus was invited. The factory is on the outskirts of New Taipei City. It uses a combination of AI technology and autonomous robots that create equipment to make computers. The entire facility uses a 3D model to manage itself and make sure everything is working properly. With only a handful of human workers on site, the factory functions with minimal outside intervention. One innovation is VR goggles that use QR codes to check the status of any machine on the shop floor. Taiwan's High Court has upheld the prison sentence of a train driver who received 4.5 years for his part in a train derailment that killed 18 and injured over 100.
他虽然否认犯罪事实，但是超速的行驶过失行为，跟本案事故列车发生多人死伤的结果具有相当因果关系。
Yu Zhenzhong appealed a decision which found him guilty of negligent homicide. He was behind the controls during the accident in October 2018. A judicial panel found that Yu also disabled the train's automatic protection system, which would have prevented him from speeding. Yu maintains his innocence. Coming here on TaiwanPlus, Matsu is preparing to hold its annual marathon. Find out what the top prize is after the break.
On the road! Have you been outdoor lately?
I've walked the dog.
From the jungle to the ocean. Are we ready? Let's do it!
Chip! Oh, look at that!
What is that?
The size of a scooter. Dude, so look at it.
And I think I'm gonna fall in love with you.
Good.
In a changing world, when voices are being silenced, TaiwanPlus is listening. We tell those stories. No compromise, no boundaries,
people in Taiwan.
no fear.
I understudy Chinese.
I'm Ryan Kilpatrick.
Capital Taipei.
TaiwanPlus.
TaiwanPlus News.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. Elon Musk, the owner of Tesla and SpaceX, has officially acquired the social media platform Twitter. Musk entered Twitter's San Francisco headquarters carrying a sink on Thursday, as he said people needed to let the purchase sink in. He has also changed his biography on Twitter to read Chief Twit. The billionaire has apparently wasted little time in making changes to the company's management, with reports saying he has fired both the CEO and CFO. He also reversed a ban on former US President Donald Trump. News first broke that Musk was considering buying Twitter in April of this year. He later tried to back out of the deal, citing what he called Twitter's fake user count, but he recommitted after the company sued him. Samsung, South Korea's largest manufacturing conglomerate, has appointed its new executive chairman. J.Y. Lee is the third generation of Samsung's founding family. His appointment formalizes his role as the head of the South Korean giant. Lee steps into his role as the company reported a 31% drop in its third quarter profit. Samsung, which is one of the world's primary manufacturers of chips and smartphones, is seen as the biggest rival to Taiwan's TSMC. Thousands of people have attended the funeral of journalist Asia Sharif in Pakistan's capital, Islamabad. Sharif was shot by Kenyan police on Sunday when the vehicle he was traveling in failed to stop at the police checkpoint. The killing has sparked outrage in Pakistan. A renowned television host and critic of Pakistan's military, Sharif fled the country in August this year, citing threats to his life. Multiple videos on social media emerged that show hundreds of people in the Chinese border region of Tibet protesting over strict COVID-19 measures. The demonstration took place Wednesday afternoon and lasted throughout the night. The Tibetan capital of Lhasa has been under the COVID lockdown for almost 3 months. It's the latest sign of unrest over China's strict zero COVID policy. All footage of the protests has already been scrubbed from Chinese social media platforms. A report by Spain-based NGO Safeguard Defenders has found that China has established over 50 police stations in more than 20 countries. The NGO alleged that these police stations are being used to harass, intimidate, and spy on Chinese dissidents. Bing Wang reports.
Over the past year, 20-year-old Chinese dissident Wang Jingyu has taken refuge in the Netherlands. He says even while living overseas, he still receives threats from the Chinese government.
A few months ago, a Dutch number called me. He said he's from Rotterdam and he's from Chinese Overseas Police Service.
But it seems that Wang is one of hundreds of overseas Chinese nationals facing harassment. Just last month, Spanish-based NGO Safeguard Defenders released a report titled 110 Overseas Chinese Transnational Policing Gone Wild. In the report, they alleged there were over 50 Chinese overseas police stations in 21 countries and across 5 continents. It also claims these stations are used to intimidate and silence Chinese people abroad. Over 230 Chinese suspects of fraud were persuaded to return to China from April 2021 to July 2022.
These tactics include threats and harassment of family, detention of family members, covert agents, or these kind of stations being involved in tracking people directly wherever they are around the world.
This building in Budapest is suspected to be a Chinese police station, but it claims to provide consular services such as issuing passports and visas.
Even these kind of consular services, renewing passports, driver's licenses, and so on, without declaring that to the authorities of the country, is in breach of territorial sovereignty.
China maintains these places are service stations for Chinese citizens abroad, and the Chinese Foreign Ministry rejected the suggestion it was breaking international laws.
我想强调的是，中国公安机关严格遵守国际法，充分尊重他国的司法主权。
These Chinese stations are now under investigation in several countries. Some of them, including one in Dublin, have been forced to shut down. But many remain open and likely harassing Chinese dissidents like Wang. Damon Lin and Bing Wang for TaiwanPlus.
China's Civil Aviation Administration has suggested opening 676 new cross-strait flight routes. COVID-19 has greatly cut cross-strait travel, leaving many Taiwanese people living in China with few chances to visit home. But Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council, the body that oversees cross-strait ties, says it is still unclear whether these routes can actually take off. No flight operators have applied to carry any of the routes, and Taiwan's Transport Ministry says many airlines are still anxious due to China's strict pandemic restrictions. One of Taiwan's annual running events is just around the corner. Eric Gao has more details.
Running by the sea. Taiwan's outlying islands of Matsu are preparing for their annual marathon, set for next Wednesday. Up to 800 runners will be taking part in the 42-kilometer race.
它是环着岛跑，然后它要跑2圈。那在赛道上，你同时可以看到山，可以看到海，那是蛮特别的一个赛事的一个赛道。一般我们的赛道如果在市区的话，你可能就是一般的道路跟河滨。那这边呢，充满了大自然的景色。
Aside from the island's natural splendor, participants will get to see a unique part of Matsu.
还要跑进1年只开放1次的非常雄伟的南北坑道。
The former military tunnel was used to store ammunition and armored vehicles, but it was shut down and only reopened in 2016 as part of the marathon course. The event isn't just for serious runners. There are also options for more casual participants, with 10 and 21-kilometer races. But for the winners of the main event, there's a very special prize. They'll get their weight in a Matsu favorite, the local sorghum liquor, or gaoliang, famously brewed in one of the island's many tunnels. Rick Yi and Eric Gao for TaiwanPlus.
A new movie is telling the story of female inmates in the notorious White Terror era prison on Taiwan's Green Island for the very first time. Our reporter Yu Jinhuang was at the premiere in Taipei.
Shedding light on a dark chapter in Taiwan's history, Untold Her Story is a new movie that delves into the history of Green Island, where many political prisoners were held before Taiwan's democratization, a period known as the White Terror. It was a time when even an act as minor as speaking Taiwanese rather than Mandarin could see someone end up in prison, as Taiwan's nationalist government tried to instill a Chinese identity in the population.
我是一个连说台语都没有被罚钱或呼巴掌过的人，我没有经历过那个时期，但是我要演更早的1950年代的时期的那样子的被压迫，我觉得那对我而言要召唤那个恐惧感是非常难的。
With many victims and perpetrators still alive today, the film can be difficult viewing.
并不是所有的观众，不是所有的人都准备好了要面对历史，然后要面对历史这件事情，其实是需要有一定的勇气跟一定的体悟。
Untold Her Story features 3 characters: a high school student jailed for making unsanctioned posters, a dancer who falsely confesses to protect her sister, and a nurse involved in social movements. While the White Terror has been featured in movies before, this new film is the first focused exclusively on the experiences of women during the period. Guests at the premiere in Taipei included victims of political persecution, and even Taiwan's vice president.
但阮这个老人逐渐凋零啊，但社会顾你关心阮过去这段历史，所以做一个政治宣言者，也是为了想深深这个感谢。
很感动，因为思想无罪对我们这一代的人来说，它就跟空气一样，就是我们不需要多想，然后就认为这本来就是一件很正常的事情。可是你在里面看到这些真正发生过的故事，你就会非常心疼那一辈的人。
牺牲会带来力量，但是70年啊，咱应该爱团结咱的力量，互咱的未来下一代唔免搁再牺牲了，这才是咱的目标。
当牺牲来的时，咱就爱笑笑来面对，因为这是反抗上悬的境界。
Untold Her Story is a reminder of just how much women as well as men sacrificed in the long struggle for freedom and democracy in Taiwan. Andy Xie, Klein Wang, and Eugene Huang for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's annual Pride Parade celebrates its 20th birthday this year. An exhibition in Taipei looks back on the rapid rise of what has become Asia's biggest LGBTQ event. Ryan Ho-Kilpatrick reports.
2 decades ago, Taiwan's early Pride parades counted attendees in the hundreds. Now, it's the biggest LGBTQ event in Asia, with hundreds of thousands participating. The remarkable success story is captured here at the Walk with Pride exhibition in Taipei's Songshan Cultural and Creative Park.
因为我们也都是
全部志工组成的团体，所以呢，大家其实就是来来去去。那大家也都在下课或是下班的时间，然后很认真的来做游行筹备。所以我觉得这个游行跟这个展览其实是有点献给所有就是参加过台湾同志运动的志工们还有民众们。
Through archived photos, footage, and artifacts from every past Pride parade, the exhibition chronicles both the movement's milestones and its challenges.
我觉得比起当初的确是有进步。
我觉得其实因为刚刚这样一路走来，觉得大家是蛮辛苦的吧，就还蛮感动的。
The past 20 years since its first Pride parade have seen incredible strides made across Taiwanese society. It's now celebrated as one of the most tolerant and inclusive countries in the region. But organizers point out there are still areas where they need to keep pressing forward. Part of the exhibition is a space dedicated to ongoing struggles for the rights of cross-national same-sex couples, adoption for same-sex couples, and the wider acceptance of more diverse families.
游行是一个给大家一种力量，然后给大家一种勇气的一个地方。那希望大家在除了游行一天以外的其他的每一天都可以做他们自己。最终，我希望以后都不要游行。对，因为不要游行表示很多问题已经都被解决了，大家才不用拿着标语走上台、走上街，然后表达自己的不满，或是表达被看见。我可能会失业，但是就是没有关系。
It might be another 20 years or more before the LGBTQ community achieves all it set out. But however long it takes, they can look back on a history to be proud of. Ryan Kilpatrick for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching today's TaiwanPlus News. Finally today, we leave you with images of the Our Heroes concert to thank those who worked on the COVID frontline for nearly 1,000 days. I'm Ethan Liu, take care, and I'll see you next time.
拍出热情，拍出咱的坚定，人一世人。